And just give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. And we'll start in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. Also in 1 Peter chapter 1. 1 Peter chapter 1. About verse 7. Peter chapter 1, verse 7. That the trial of your faith being much more precious than of gold that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found under praise, honor, and esteem at the appearing of Yahushua HaMashiach, whom having not seen you love, and whom though now you see him not yet believing, you rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of esteem, receiving the end of your faith, even the salvation of your souls, of which salvation the prophets have inquired and searched diligently, who prophesied of the favor that should come unto you, searching what manner of time the Ruach of Mashiach, which was in them, did signify, when it testified beforehand the sufferings of Mashiach and the esteem that should follow. So what we're looking at is, he says that before time the sufferings of Mashiach were manifested in the Ruach of the prophets, and they spoke of this esteem that would come after that. So that means we're going to have to sit back and look at it and see what we can see the sufferings of Mashiach, and then turn around and look at how we would bear those in our own body. And that when we bear those in our own body, it would lead to the esteem of the Father and the salvation of our souls, the same way it led to the salvation of Yahushua's soul. So the first place that I would want to say look at is come over here to Lamentations chapter 1. Something we done sit back and looked at in the past, but we're going to look at all, but pretty much all these things. Lamentations 1 and about verse 4. Look at 1 Chronicles chapter 7. There's something in my mind of 1 Chronicles chapter 7. So I was looking at the other day. Make sure that's what it wants. Yeah, 1 Chronicles 7 and about 20. Hold on. Here goes Lamentations chapter 1, verse 4. The ways of Zion do mourn, because none come to the solemn feast. All her gates are desolate. Matter of fact, make it verse 3. Just make it 2. She weeps sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she have none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her, and they are become her enemies. Now, she weeps sore all the night. Say all her lovers, none of them they are to comfort her. Her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies. So when we turn around and you look at it, we know from John 1, he came into his own received him not. We're not finna go read it because we know this stuff. We know that, he wept for Yasharal, and when he prayed, it was like he was praying, the sweat coming from his head looked like blood. But they sat back and looked at it. When he got up from praying, he turned around and he looked at his apostles that he brought up there with him, and he said, you couldn't watch with me for 1 hour. They weren't even there to comfort him. Then you sit back and look at it. His friends dealt treacherously, meaning the children of Yasharal, they betrayed him, and they became his enemy to set him up for death. Jeremiah testifying of this suffering that come beforehand. But let's look at what the next thing he said, though. Say Yehuda is gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. What is that, locked or something? It says, Yehuda's gone into captivity because of affliction and of great servitude. She dwell among the heathen, she find no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits. The ways of Zion do mourn because none come to the solemn feast. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh. Her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness. Let's look at something with these virgins real fast. Let's look at something with these virgins real fast. And one of the things it means to sit back, to separate. So he say those that are separated are mourning. Hold us to look at John chapter 16 when it comes to that. (16 and 19). Well, 16 and 17. You know, affliction can sit back and it can be a very, very hard thing, and mourning is usually the byproduct of what comes from it. So let's look at it. It says, then said some of his disciples among themselves, what is this that he saith unto us, a little while, and ye shall not see me, and again a little while ye shall see me, because I go to the Abba. They said, therefore, what is this that he saith a little while? We cannot tell what he saith. Now Yahushua knew that they were desirous to ask him, and said unto them, do you inquire among yourselves of that I said, a little while, and ye shall not see me, and again a little while, and ye shall see me? Truly, truly, I say unto you that ye shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice. You shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned into joy. That's where they sit back and look at, oh my. That those that sit back and look at it, that they were mourning. See, come over here to 2 Corinthians chapter 7. Probably about verse 4. Make it 1. Say, having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and ruach, perfecting Kadesh and the fear of Elohim. Now, I sit back and we were looking, starting in 1 Peter, knowing that consolation and all of those things, that it be the saving of our souls when they testify the sufferings of Mashiach. We have to know that those sufferings of Mashiach were those promises that be made that come from that we ought to perfect ourselves in the fear of Elohim with that Kadesh. This is what he said, receive us, we've wronged no man, we've corrupted no man, we have defrauded no man. I speak not this to condemn you, for I've said before that you are in our hearts to die and live with you. Great is my boldness of speech towards you, great is my esteeming of you. I am filled with comfort, I am exceedingly joyful in all our tribulation. For when we were coming to Macedonia, our flesh had no rest. We were troubled on every side. Without were fightings and with tears. That's the same thing where we looking at when we looking at what we read in Lamentations chapter 1. We come back and we look at that Lamentations chapter 1. Because this man say we are troubled on every side, had no rest, without fightings, and within were fears. Look at verse 6 though, before we go look at this Lamentation. He say, nevertheless, Elohim, that comfort those that are cast down, comforted us by the coming of Titus. That's what we sitting back looking at. As at the end of the day, when you get cast down, what's going on, gentlemen? You looking to be comforted by Elohim. Y'all, you talk to Young Slim Stanley?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, earlier.
Because I know Pell said he called him, he didn't answer the phone. Hold on one second, y'all. What's going on this morning?
That's all right. Hey.
We'll come back to Lamentation chapter 1, y'all. So we look at Lamentations 1, right? Listen what he said in verse 3. He say, because Yehuda is gone into captivity of affliction, and because of great servitude she dwell among the heathen, she find no rest. Her persecutors overtook her in the straits. Well, we see Paul bearing the same reference to these things right here in 2 Corinthians chapter 7. That sometimes when you sit back and you look at it, when those afflictions is coming on, it's going to bear witness to a greater salvation. Because like we just read in verse 5, he say, our flesh had no rest. We were troubled on every side, without fightings and without fightings and with fears. This is the same thing that Jeremiah is bearing witness to. Come on back over here and look at, we read verse 4. Let's look at verse 5 though, in Lamentations chapter 1. Lamentations 1 and 5. He said, her adversaries are the chief, her enemies prosper. For Yahuwah have afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children are gone into captivity before the enemy. And from the daughter of Zion, all her beauty is departed. Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture, and they are gone without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction and of her miseries all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old. And when her people fell into the hand of the enemy, none did help her. The adversary saw her and did mock at her Shabbats. So let's turn around and sit back and look at it. Again, we're looking at that all the prophets testified of the suffering of Mashiach beforehand and the salvation that would come. And then the time will come in that when we be conformed unto him, that we might have to bear about those same marks in our body, that same suffering. So let's look at this Lamentations 1. We still holding 2 Corinthians chapter 7 because we ain't finished with that. But let's sit back and look what he said. Her adversaries are chief. Her enemies prosper. Because Yahuwah have afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children have gone into captivity before the enemy. Well, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Matter of fact, get Isaiah 25. We need to ascertain who the enemy is. Isaiah 25 and 8. Because we got to sit back and look at something that we were looking at in 2 Corinthians chapter 1. That y'all will. I say I got to go ahead and work that in and complete that because we done left it hanging 2 days in a row. I'm just finna paraphrase it, but what he say? When we are afflicted, it is for your consolation and salvation, which is the effectual enduring of the same sufferings that we suffered. Whether we be comforted, it is for your consolation and salvation. He say, knowing as you partakers of the suffering, you'll be partaker of the consolation, which would be the comfort. So you looking at in Lamentations, Jerusalem is going into captivity. They're going into bondage, or they're going into Babylon, or going into confusion. You know what I'm saying? They about to be put in, they about to be cast down. But even we're going to turn around and look at that, even when they get cast down to go into bondage, that Yah's going to give them some manner of comfort that they're going to come up out of that, even in that consolation and in that trouble. That's where you sit back and you can know that. Because even when you're going through some affliction, your soul may not necessarily want to receive it. You know what I'm saying? But y'all always will get that comfort. It'll be sometimes you might have to be broke all the way down before you actually receive that. Because like I said, we read about Job. Job said it was better for me. You go ahead and cut me off now. You know what I'm saying? Because he's looking at his friends. He's looking at Elohim is then let all these things happen to him. His friends ain't being no comforters. You know what I'm saying? He going to Elohim trying to figure out what's going on. Why is this stuff happening to me? And then he turn around and look at it's just better for me to die. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't able to actually receive the consolation until he got all the way through it. That's why the young man told him, he said, well, I hope he try you all the way to the end because you've chosen this rather than affliction. That's what some people sit back and look at. They'll go through some manner of affliction. They'll rather choose the pleasure. You know what I'm saying? Try to find a way to escape from it. Isaiah 25 and 8 though. He said he will swallow up death and victory, and Yahuwah Elohim will wipe away tears from off all faces, and the rebuke of his people shall he take away from off all their wraths, for Yahuwah hath spoken it. And it shall be said in that day, lo, this is our Elohim, we have waited for him, and he will save us. This is Yahuwah, we have waited for him, and we will be glad and rejoice in his salvation. When you going through that, sitting that now you say how you say he waited for him, get Jeremiah chapter 29 about verse 10. You don't hear Lizzie cry that long. 29 and 4, matter of fact. Now remember now, make it 1. Remember now, Jeremiah is talking about when Jerusalem being broke down, say, you know, she ain't got no rest. Meaning we don't have no peace. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of time when you being afflicted, your peace seems to drift from you. You know what I'm talking about? And you trying to seek that consolation to keep it with Elohim because it drifts away. He said, now these are the words of the letter that Yirmiyahu the prophet sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders which were carried away captives, and to the priests and to the prophets and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. And after that, Jeconiah the king and the queen and the eunuchs and the princes of Yehuda and Jerusalem and the carpenters and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem by the hand of Elash the son of Shaphan and Gemariah the son of Hilkiah, whom Zechariah king of Yehuda sent unto Babylon to Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, Elohim of Yasharal, unto all that were carried away captives, of whom I caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon. He say, Build ye houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Listen what he tell you now. Listen what he say now. To all those who I caused to carry away captive, build ye houses and dwell in them, plant gardens and eat the fruit that's in them. So now you sitting back looking at you in the midst of being carried captive, and he gives you an instruction to build houses and to plant gardens. Now, why would he turn around and tell us to build houses and plant gardens? Let's look at Matthew 15 and look at the first thing when you talking about planting a garden, about 15 and 11. You hold it, Jeremiah 29, while we still holding Lamentations 1 and 2 Corinthians chapter 7. Matthew 15 and well, make it about 12. He said, Then came his disciples and said unto him, Know thou that the Pharisees were offended, and after they heard this saying? But he answered and said, Every plant which my Father and Shamahim have not planted shall be rooted up. Let them alone, they be blind leaders of the blind, and if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Now when we're looking at there, he say all the princes and all the heads of the people, they had departed, because he sent these letters to the priests and to the prophets, and all them that are carried away captive. These people were the reason why they were carried away captive in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Because they were partial in the law. They wasn't teaching the people the law. They wasn't setting forth the example. But then the key thing that he said is he told them plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Now he said every plant that my heavenly Father hasn't planted shall be rooted up. So when we look at planting a garden, we talked about a garden the other day. You know what I'm saying? So when you looking at planting a garden, let's look at John chapter 18 real fast. It's about planting a garden and eating the fruit of it. John 18 and 1. Because we talking about planting a garden. That means that's actually telling us to plant ourselves in Mashiach, because he is the garden. He told you, build ye houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat the fruit thereof. When sit back to look at to get the fruit thereof, the fruit's got to be purged. See, when we come back and look at John chapter 15, we're going to see that the fruit got to be purged when you plant it in this garden to bring forth fruit. Say, when Yahushua had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the brook of Cedron, where was a garden, into which he entered, and his disciples. So now we see he's going into a garden. But then you sit back and look at it. Let's look at John chapter 19, and let's see if it makes reference to another garden. John 19 and 41. All this is going to be relevant in a moment. Something that we talked about earlier in the week. Say, now in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden. And in the garden, a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. There laid they Yahushua, because the Yahudim preparation day for the sepulchre was nigh at hand. So when we come back and look at Genesis chapter 2, he's get placed in the garden, which means if he get placed in the garden, he already told you in John chapter 12, except the corn of wheat fall on the ground and die, it abide alone, but if it died, bring forth much fruit. So you see the seed, which is the word of Elohim, according to John chapter 1, in the beginning with the word was with Elohim, the word was Elohim. You know what I'm saying? He was the word made flesh. Revelation 19 say he had a name written on his vesture, which was the word of Elohim. So we see the seed is being planted in a garden that no man had ever tilled. Let's come back and look at this in Genesis chapter 2. 2 and 5. Every plant of the field before it was in the rats, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahuwah Elohim had not caused it to rain upon the rats, and there was no man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the rats and watered the whole face of the ground. Yahuwah Elohim planted a garden eastward in Eden, and he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made Yahuwah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. Remember, he say, plant you a garden, eat the fruit of it. He say, in the midst of this garden, he calls every tree that's pleasant to the sight, that's good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So when we see him telling us about plant a garden and eat the fruit of it because he says it's good for food, we turn around and see that even when Jeremiah is sitting here telling you, even in the midst of your captivity in your bond, God calls you to be carried away captive. We know he that commits sin is the servant of sin. What's else going to have you confused with sin? Let's look at Romans chapter 7 and what Paul says. So what we looking at it, even in the midst of affliction, you seeing the consolation and the salvation. This is what we actually looking at. What is Liz's problem? Seven and 5. Matter of fact, 7 and 1. I run the whole thing down and take it like that because he told you to plant a garden and eat the fruit thereof. So we see he planted a garden and he planted and he tilled a seed or sowed a seed in that garden. And what we're seeing is that's the death of Mashiach. So when we're looking at it, even in all those sufferings and afflictions, it's going to be some fruit of it. So if you sit back and you plant yourself in the likeness of his death, you're going to bring forth the fruit of it to get the consolation. Romans 7:1. Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the Torah, for that how the Torah have dominion over man as long as he live. For the woman which have a husband is bound to the Torah to her husband so long as he live. But if the husband be dead, she is loose from the Torah of the husband. So then if while her husband lives she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that Torah, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man. Wherefore, my brethren, you are also become dead to the Torah by the body of Mashiach, that you should be married to another, even to him that is raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit to Elohim. He told you, you need to plant you a garden and eat the fruit thereof. We turn around and look at if we plant the garden, which is to plant ourselves in his death, then we'll eat the fruit thereof that come forth from that death will come forth from Mashiach. This is the next thing he tell you. For when we were in the flesh, the motions of sin, which were by the Torah, did work in our members to bring forth fruit unto death. But now we are delivered from the Torah, that being dead, wherein we were held, that we should serve in newness of Ruach and not oldness of the letter. What shall we say then? Is the Torah sin? Elohim forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the Torah, for I had not known lust, except the Torah had said, thou shalt not covet. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of conspicuance, for without the Torah sin was dead. For I was alive without the Torah once, but when the commandment came, sin revived, and I died. So he's sitting here telling you, this has taken me captive. Now he just gave you the consolation of what would occur even in the midst of that captivity, that there could be fruit that could be brought forward to everlasting life. Then we know further down the chapter, Paul go to referencing what? O wretched man, who will deliver me from the body of this death? He say, I give thanks to my Elohim that I've attained victory through Yahushua. You know what I'm talking about? Just to get the freedom to relieve me from this captivity. But in order for me to be relieved from this captivity, we're going to have to do how Romans 6 is talking about, which is to be planted in his death. I think it uses those exact words in the 5th verse. If we be planted together in the likeness of his death. He told you to plant gardens. So we had to turn around and look at that when you get immersed in the man's name, you planting a garden. You know what I'm saying? And then you coming out to eat the fruit thereof. So let's look at Hebrews chapter 12. When we look at the fruit thereof is going to be what? The fruits of the Ruach. In order to attain it, you got to die. This is going to be the consolation for the planting in the garden. The planting in the garden is dying. That way, then he say, build you houses and dwell in them. You know what I'm saying? That means we have to reconstruct and build a body or a temple meet for the living Elohim to dwell in. You know, he say, you know you not that ye are the temple of the living Elohim. He that defile the temple of Elohim, him will Elohim destroy. You know what I'm saying? He said, I will walk in them and I will be in them and I will be their power and they will be my people. So we have to turn around and look at, in order to build that house, two things got to happen. Even to plant that garden and eat the fruit thereof, you got to die. And in order for you got to die, means you're going to have to suffer affliction or them wounds, them arrows. Like we were talking about the other day in Hebrew, you look for that word arrow and it's going to come out and the Hebrew word for it means wounds. So that means we have to bear about the dying of his body in us. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean it's going to be everybody's sufferings to become conformed to him is not going to be the same. That's why I say if you be partakers of his sufferings, everybody is not becoming a partaker of his suffering. And then if they begin to be a partaker of his suffering, they trying to get around it. You know what I'm saying? They trying to find a way around it and don't want to endure it. Hebrews chapter 12. and 7. 12 and 6. He say, for whom Yahuwah love, he chasten and scourge every son whom he received. If you endure chastening, Elohim deal with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chastens not? But if you be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then ye are bastards and not sons. Furthermore, we have fathers of our ruach, of the flesh, which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of ruachs and live? For they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit. So you sit back and look at it. He chastened the Mashiach for his own gain. You know what I'm saying? Even when he's sitting back telling them what we're going to go back in Jeremiah 29, what they taking on was for their own gain. So the sufferings and the chastisement and the afflictions is for our gain. But like he finna tell you, it don't seem like that at the time. Because even for Mashiach, he was like this here. I'm exceedingly sorrowful even unto death. At the time, this don't seem to feel great. He say, for truly, for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he after our own profit, that we might be partakers of his Kadesh. Now no chastening for the present seemed to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterwards, it yield the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. So you sit back and look at it. He said the peaceable fruit of righteousness. We read in Lamentation chapter 1, them people ain't had no rest. That's what he said. You know what I'm saying? They not realizing this chastisement is going to yield that peaceable fruit of righteousness. So let's look in Galatians 5 and 21 and see what this peaceable fruit should yield. Well, 5 and 22. But the fruit of the Ruach is love. So the love of Elohim would be brought forth out of the chastisement. Joy and shalom, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith. One thing about sufferings and afflictions is that your faith should be developed through that. You know what I'm saying? The meekness and humility should be brought through that. You sit back and learn to be long suffering with others. You sit back and learn to be gentle with others. Look what next thing you say. Temperance, self-control. Then against such there is no Torah. And they that are Mashiachs have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. So if they crucified the flesh, what have they did? They've been planted in the likeness of his death, or they planted a garden to eat the fruit thereof. So you sit back and you look at when you die in Mashiach, you begin to eat these fruits. See, let's look at John chapter 15. So when we look at it in about verse 4. So when we look at these fruits, what we look at is you begin to eat the love of Elohim, the joy of Elohim, the shalom of Elohim, the long suffering of Elohim, the meekness, the goodness, the faith, the self-control. All of these things that you're going to begin to eat. Why? Because he said there's no Torah against these things. That means these things are good. He said that this tree was good for food. He planted all manner of trees that were good for food. All these things are good because if a man partake of these things, what are they going to produce? It's going to produce everlasting life. John 15 and 4. Make it 2. Every branch in me that bear not fruit, he take away. And every branch that bear fruit, he purge it, that it might bring forth more fruit. So if he say, if you in him and you not bringing forth no fruit, he's going to remove you. He say, but if you bring forth fruit, he's going to purge it. That can bring more fruit. And you know, purging in this instance would be putting that heat on it. But let's just make sure. Let's just make sure. Let's just make sure. Let me pull the word up. Purge. It says to purify from uncleanliness. It also says, you know, to sin, to miss the way to go wrong. But the purge is going to be basically to purify one from uncleanliness. And we sit back and look at, he said the trial of your faith is more precious than gold. What's going to purge you from uncleanliness but fire? You know what I'm saying? To try you in the fire. So when we sit back and look at it, he's going to take that fire to bring forth more fruit. It means to be more afflictions, more sufferings, more things to endure to bring forth that fruit on the everlasting life, or basically more chastening. He say, now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can ye except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abide in me and I in him, the same bring forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. So there's no way we're going to be able to bring forth any fruit unless while we in this captive state that we got to plant us a garden and eat the fruit thereof. That means while we was in sin, we're going to have to die in Mashiach. We're going to have to plant that garden to be manifested in him. Come back to Jeremiah 29. Hello? Hello? Jeremiah 29, right? Verse 5, right? He say, build ye houses and dwell in them and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. So again, that's what we looking at. Even in the midst of being captive, Yahuwah is giving you a consolation of salvation. Build you a house and dwell in it. He built you a house while you were in captive state. He built you in the house when you were in a confused state of committing sin. You know what I'm saying? While you had an evil heart of unbelief. He built Mashiach. He told you go dwell in that. That's why he just said, abide in me and I in you. Then he just said, plant you a garden, eat the fruit of them. Well, we just looked at that. When he put Mashiach in that grave, in that garden, that sepulcher where no man ever laid, and we went back and looked at Adam, we turned around to see he planted in the garden, then he brought forth trees that were good for food. We see Mashiach is good for food if we eat his fruits, because his tree, the fruits of his tree is the healing of the nations. And then we turn around and like we looked at it, right? 12 manner of fruits. Now, it's not 12 manners of fruits. If it's 12 manner of fruits of the Ruach, I'm going to trip. Hold on. I don't think it was 12 of them. Let's see if it's 12 of them. I don't think it was 12 of them. You think it was 12? I don't know. I don't know if we read 12. We're going to see if we read 12. I don't think we read 12. I'm going to trip if we did, though. Hold on. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got 9. We got 9. We got 9. I was going to say, boy, that's 12. That's wild. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? But when we look at the fruit of that tree, that love of Elohim, that joy in Elohim, that shalom in Elohim, that long suffering in Elohim, the meekness, the temperance, the gentleness, the goodness, the faith, the self-control, that's good. That's for the healing of the nation right there. That's what's going to heal a man. What's this going to heal him from? From death. Why is that going to heal him? Because he planted himself together in the likeness of his death. You went and planted yourself in that garden just like that seed was. You know what I'm saying? And then now you in the vine, you a branch within that tree that comes out, that produces this fruit. And we see this fruit is good for food. Everything, even when we went back and we look in Genesis chapter 1, we talked about this same tree earlier this week when we were looking at that Mashiach being planted in that garden in John 19 was pointing to the tree in John chapter 1. Reason being because, my apologies, in Genesis chapter 1. The reason being because he made that tree that had the seed within itself and fruit after his own kind. He made that tree on the third day. Same way Mashiach come up out the grave to be that tree on the third day. You know what I'm saying? And that tree was good for food. So we know if it was good in Genesis chapter 1, that same tree that come up out of there is good now. So that means that's what we ought to eat. That's the same way when Eve saw that tree, she said, hey man, this fruit here look good for food right here. I ought to partake in it. That's we had to sit back and look at. We ought to partake in the fruit of Mashiach. 29:6. Take ye wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to the husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that they may be increased there and not diminished. And seek the shalom of the city whither I've caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yahuwah for it, for in the shalom thereof shall ye have peace. For thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, Elohim Yasharah, let not your prophets and your diviners that be in the midst of you deceive you, neither hearken to your dreams which ye cause to be dreamed. For they prophesy falsely unto you in my name. I have not sent them, saith Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you, and I will perform my good words towards you, in causing you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith Yahuwah, thoughts of shalom and not evil, to give you an unexpected end. Then shall you call upon me, and ye shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And you shall seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. and I will be found of you, saith Yahuwah, and I will turn away your captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith Yahuwah. I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. Now you turn around and you look at it, right? I want you to look at First Timothy chapter 2, if I'm not mistaken. He told you to turn around and pray for that place. Now you'll have some Hebrews get mad with you when stuff like this here. But man, it's got to be a basic, because you know everybody say Paul come up with his own stuff. Man just telling you what was already there. First Timothy chapter 2, verse 1. He just getting this stuff straight from what's already written. It's not coming up with nothing new, nothing on his own. Dang. First Timothy chapter 2, verse 1. I exhort therefore that first of all supplications and prayers and intercessions and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and for all that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. This is good and acceptable in the sight of Elohim. Is this not what Jeremiah, this is not what he just told Jeremiah? Is this not what he just told Jeremiah? Did he just not tell them to pray for that place that they could live a peaceable life? You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, that's what we desire, to have a peaceable life. Someone say, just sit back and look at it, that'll be weak. That's not just being weak. He didn't say that you couldn't stand up and speak against the people. He just say pray for them that they leave you alone. You know where that come from? Look at 1 Kings chapter 8. First Kings 8, verse 46. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 46. If they sin against thee, for there is no man that sin not, and thou be angry with them, and deliver them to the enemy, so they carry them away captives unto the land of the enemy far or near. Yet if they shall bethink themselves in the land whither they were carried captives, and repent, and make supplication unto thee in the land of them that carried them captives, saying, we have sinned and done perversely, we have committed wickedness, and so return unto thee with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, which led them away captive, and pray unto thee towards their land, which thou gave unto their fathers, the city which thou hast chosen, and the house which I have built for thy name. Then hear thou their prayer and supplication in Shamahim thy dwelling place, and maintain their cause, and forgive thy people that have sinned against thee, and all their transgressions where they have transgressed against thee, and give them compassion before them who carried them captive, that they might have compassion on them. So you see another place where he getting it from, where these people just leave us alone. You know what I'm saying? But we also know that these people just evil as the day is long. You know what I'm talking about? So just come back to Jeremiah 29. So you sit back and you look at it, but most of our people, do they actually do the things that he told us to do, to where that could actually happen? You know what I'm saying? The way, when you look at most people who actually walking in this man way and then search for him with all their heart, those people usually leave you alone. You know what I'm saying? And they don't give you no hassle and no trouble whatsoever. When we look back at Jeremiah 29, right? He said he know that he told you that he know the thoughts that he thinks towards you, that thoughts of peace and not evil. When you going through that affliction, like Paul saying, you being partakers of the suffering, he said we was despaired even of our own life. But he said we had a sentence of death in ourselves, that we should not trust in ourselves. And see, we can line that up with Joseph. And we can line that up with a couple other people, and we probably going to do that when we come back and look at it. You know what I'm saying? That you'll sit back and look at. I told you the other day, when that thing say that he despaired of his own life, when you look at that, despair means hopelessness. You know what I'm saying? That means he was sitting back looking at everything that he was going and dealing with, and whatever they were going around, whatever people trying to kill him, whatever they were dealing with, he got despaired about it. You know what I'm saying? Despaired to the point where he like, you know what I'm saying? My hope sliding on this one. You know what I'm talking about? That's what he had to recall to mind, like, hey, that I shouldn't trust in myself, but in Elohim who raised from the dead. And sometimes a lot of people ain't been took to that point where they begin to actually feel like that. But look at this next thing right here, right? In verse 13. How he said, if you seek with me with the whole heart, I'll be found of you. Let's look at Luke chapter 11 when it comes to that. That's why a lot of people don't get found to y'all, because that's what they not doing. They ain't actually searching with him with the whole heart. Luke 11:5. So you sit back and you look at it, you were given that commandment right there in Deuteronomy chapter 6, right? Say love Yahuwah with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. I mean, when you go to seek for him, you got to seek for him with the whole heart. See, some people seek for him and they leave a little bit back. They leave a little bit back because they don't want to do what we just read, which is plant that garden to eat the fruit thereof. Because to plant that garden, you're going to have to die with him. You know what I'm saying? To sit back and say, I'm going to willingly offer my life, that means you got to do that with your whole heart, your whole mind, and your whole soul. Because you ain't going to willingly offer your life with a little bit. If you like, yeah, I'm going to die. But if you really ain't going to die, it's about 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever percent you lean back, it's going to cause you to hesitate to go do it. You're going to step, but you ain't going to go all the way. But if you all in, you all in. Ain't nothing going to be going. You ain't going to be sitting back thinking about, shoot, well, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. That's why you see some people, they get to a certain point with the word and stop. You know what I'm saying? Or go back. That's why you say the seed in the stony places or by the wayside or in the thorns. You know what I'm saying? Because it's going to be something where they're going to hold back. So they're not going to be willing to be planted in this man's likeness. They're not going to eat that fruit, though, because they're not going to plant that garden. And he said unto them, which of you shall have a friend, and shall go unto him at midnight and say unto him, friend, lend me 3 loaves. For a friend of mine is in his journey, is come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. And he say, from within shall answer and say, trouble me not, the door is now shut. My children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give thee. I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity, he will rise and give him as many as he need. And I say unto you, ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks, receive, and he that seek, find. And to him that knock, it shall be opened. He say, if a son shall ask bread of any of you that is a father, will he give him a stone? Or if he ask a fish, will he for a fish give him a serpent? Now, what do you think this means when he say, if a son shall ask bread of any of you that is a father, will he give him a stone?
He basically saying that your father, not saying, gonna give you good gifts, but you, not saying, he's saying y'all wicked. You feel me? How great a gift is the Yahuwah is truthful and merciful. His gifts is like a father wouldn't give his son no stone if he asked for a fish. That's his father gonna give him what his son has.
Absolutely. You remember what Hashatan said to Mashiach and when he came from fasting? You remember what he asked him?
He said,
turn these breads into stone. So when we look at that, there's a reason why Mashiach say, which one of y'all being a father, if his children ask for bread, he'll give them a stone. See, let's go back and look at the law and something, right? And let's look at something in Exodus chapter 34. Now, what you said wasn't wrong now, because that's exactly what he's talking about. This is, you know,
was deeper to it, though.
Yeah, I mean, we're just looking at something else like scripture. What you said is absolutely right. Mm-hmm. What man being a father, if his child asks him for something, ain't going to give him something good? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what he about to say in the completion of it. Absolutely. That was not a wrong answer. That was the right answer. Sometimes it could just be more than one answer. You know what I'm saying? That ain't no wrong answer, because that's real talk. What man going to be a father? My son asked me for bread, and I'm going to give him a rock. Like, Pop, what am I going to do with that? You know what I'm saying? What am I going to do with this? I ain't asked you for this. You know what I'm saying? But when you turn around and look at it, see, but that's how Hashatan rolled. See, you've been asked for something that you need. Well, son, you might ask for something that you need. He gonna give you something that ain't even gonna come close to what you need. The way it looked, all right. He give bad gifts. He give gifts that's really not gonna profit you in the end. You know what I'm saying? He gonna give you something that's eventually, because when you look at a rock, you know what a rock usually end up being? A stumbling block. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be something that's going to cause you to stumble at the law. Going to stumble toward Mashiach. It's going to cause you to fall. It's going to cause you to lose your soul. That's how he operates. It looked good. It looked nice when he gave it to you. This ain't what I asked for, but all right. You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't going to play with you like that. You ask for bread, I'm going to give you bread.
So that's the reason why he said that? It's in the law, like the bread and stone?
Absolutely.
Is it with the stone, with the tablets?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exodus 34. About verse 1. Because remember, that's why he said, which one of you? Because remember, right? He wrote us the law on stone, right? But we're going to turn back and look at in Exodus 16 and go backwards. You know what I'm talking about? Well, the people asked for bread. Then we're going to turn around and sit back and look at, when he came, he said, which one of you being a father, if your children ask for bread, you give him a stone. He going to turn back around and you're going to see Mashiach going to come and you ain't ask for no stone. I'm going to give you something better. I'm going to take that heart of stone up out of you and give you a heart of flesh. You know what I'm saying? Because bread is a lot of salt. It's what we're looking at during unleavened bread. See, one way or another, we have to work the bread and the wine in there somewhere. You know what I'm talking about? He said, Yahuwah said unto Moshe, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables which thou break. So let's go back and look at Exodus 16. Exodus 16:1. Now take it into account. Matter of fact, I put it to you this way, because I should have started at Exodus 16 first. You look at it, right? He hadn't gave us the law yet. So when you see Mashiach say, which one of y'all being a father, if your children ask for bread, you give him a stone. He hadn't gave him the law yet. So when you see in Exodus 16 and they ask for something, you actually see him giving them bread. You know what I'm saying? He put the law on 2 tables of stone for symbolizing for it to be written as a witness against them. But they never, when they asked for that bread, he gave them bread. He didn't give them no stone. You know what I'm saying? Because he was trying to show them, I'm trying to give you life. You don't want to take it. Taking into account that the bread come from Shamahim. Let's look at it, Exodus 16:1. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Yasharal came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month, after departing out of the land of Mizraim. And the whole congregation of the children of Yasharal murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. And the children of Yasharal said unto them, would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Mizraim, when we sat by the flesh pots and we did eat bread to the full, for you have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Now, you sit back and look at something, right? Now, they murmuring and complaining. They in their youthful lust right now. We talked the other day. They sitting back, they thinking about when we were in the days of our youth, we had all that good stuff. You know what I'm talking about? But then he say, we about to die from hunger. But then we also know what Mashiach say. Blessed are those who thirst and hunger after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Now, they weren't hungering and thirsting after righteousness in this instance. But yet at the same time, he said, I'm Yahuwah your Elohim, open your mouth wide, I'll fill it. They wasn't trying to eat, though. You know what I'm saying? Not what he was trying to give them. Because he was trying to teach him that a man don't live by bread alone, but every word that come out the mouth of Elohim. See, even Job in the 23rd chapter said he esteemed Yah's word above his necessary food. You know what I'm saying? The average person don't have that type of mind state where they would esteem this man's word over the food that they body need to eat. Which is one of the things that he tried to actually show you on the Day of Atonement when you're afflicting your soul, which is you sitting back looking at, I esteem and need you more than the things that are needful for my body. That if I'm willing to afflict my body from what it needs, I can afflict my body from what it wants. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of brothers get the Day of Atonement mixed up what they fasting for. You know what I'm saying? You fasting for because if you can regulate and afflict your soul from what it needs, then you can do that from the things that it desires. You know what I'm saying? Cause you to bring it into subjection. Verse 4. Then said Yahuwah unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from Shamahim for you. And the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my Torah or no. So now you say, if anybody asks for bread, will he give them a stone? Well, they asked for bread, what he gave them? He didn't rain no stones down. He gave them some bread. But then he said he gave them this bread to see, will they do what I tell them to do or not? Let's look in John chapter 6 about that. Six and 30. Yeah, I forgot about that, man. Dude hollered at me about they having some Hebrew summit, not with the One West Cats, in July. Dude inboxed me about that, matter of fact, in July. I think in Kentucky. He wanted me to come. Let me see. Yeah, Hebrew Summer Fellowship, July 7th to 10th in Louisville.
You seen what The dude that be doing the tour, you see how he blasted Lamont?
No, what he do? You know, I ain't got all them dudes on my page, man, so I don't see all that stuff. What he do to him?
And this junk got like 47 shares, bro.
No.
You want to wait out the
Yeah. We'll wait.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
This, we gotta see.
Why? What I'm saying? Why he did him like that?
I'm gonna tell y'all that lesson, man. Bro,
He came for it?
Bro, I'm gonna show you.
Golly. See, now I was talking with a brother this morning, right? Because we were talking about the days things, right? And it was something that I had been in my head. I just hadn't went around it yet because I'm sitting there looking at it. Because, all right, me and him done already know, like I told you about that Revelation 9 and 15. I know this a little off-centric what we talking about, but just bear with me for a moment. Right, Revelation 9 and 15 say clear as day. Hours, days, month, years. You know what the key thing is missing?
You said hours, days.
He said hours, days, months, and years. It's one key thing that's missing. Same thing that's missing in Genesis 1 and 14. He said they shall be for days, years, seasons, weeks. Weeks are missing. You know what I'm saying? That's because the luminaries do not determine any weeks. Matter of fact, you don't see week mentioned in the book often. You know what I'm saying? What me and the brother were discussing was the reason why you don't necessarily see that is so don't nobody play with the Shabbat. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look at, he could have made the sun on the first day, but he said, let there be light. He made the sun. You know what I'm talking about? He made Yahushua. That's who he made on that first day. He didn't make the sun and the moon till the fourth day. And that's for the purpose of you cannot be able to determine my Shabbats by these luminaries. You can be able to turn the days by them. And you can be able to turn months by them. And even years. But I won't let you use them to mess with them weeks. Because when you go to messing with them weeks, the Shabbat can end up on numerous different places. You know what I'm saying? As you see niggas doing now with a lunar Shabbat. Every month it's in a different place. When it's supposed to be fixed. You know what I'm saying? Even when we look at the feast, it's a appointed time. When something is appointed, that means you know every year when it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going to be no Passovers on April 4th this year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. Every Passover should be the same.
Say every year, because that's what appointed time means.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you look in Hebrew, the word season, it means appointed time. That means every year it's got to be in the same place at the same time. Now, when we sitting back looking at it, right?
Hey, but the reason why it's different is because we have less days than them.
No, because the less days thing come in that because niggas calculating wrong.
Yeah, because the Jehovah's Witness, when they go to the memorial, my grandma tried to get me to go, it'll always be different days.
Yeah, it's because of calculation. See, me and the brother were talking about this here, like how they say the moon got 29, 30 days. He said he went to dig it even deeper. He said the moon got 30-day cycle too. Same thing. You know what I'm saying? But we know that obviously we can't calculate months by the moon because this period with these 13 moon coming up and niggas trying to go in the book and justify 13 moons when they don't have it. You know what I'm saying? And then just like, that's the key point. Like, remember they was like, well, it ain't going to be 52 weeks if it's 360 days. Where do we read in the book anything about 52 weeks? Where did he even tell you anything about weeks, period? You know what I'm saying? That's us interjecting that in because we looking at it's got to be 52 divisible weeks to come up with the 7-day week. He never said anything to you about weeks. The only time he talk about weeks is 70 weeks in Daniel or a week representing 7 years. He rarely speaks of weeks in the word. Rarely. You know what I'm saying? Like now we lining Revelation 9 up with the law because the law say the same thing Revelation 9 say. These things are for days, months, years, and hours. We know hours because of Ahaz with the sundial. If they got a sundial, that means they were keeping time with the sun. And if they were keeping time with the sun, they would count days with it too. What other purpose would it be out there for? You know what I'm saying? You look at ancient civilizations, they had sundials. That's what they used to keep time. Like a brother said, yeah, boy, which I thought this was common knowledge. You know what I'm saying? You can look, and if you know how to track the sun, you can look at the sun and know what time it is.
Oh, I definitely want to understand.
I think I seen the back when we was in school, they used to have something like that.
Yeah.
A little diagram. When they said this is at like 12 o'clock.
Yeah, when you see the sun directly overhead, it's noon.
Noon time, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You can, if you know how to do it and you've been taught how to do it, you can look at the sun and be like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. Oh, it's 5 o'clock.
Because it is raising from the east, so you know that.
Yeah, it's moving just like a watch.
Yeah, and then when you see that jump go towards that west and it's going down,
You already know.
You already know. But see, then now we turn around and look at the moon and the sun supposed to work together. If the moon representative of Yahushua and the sun representative of the Father, and the sun representative of Yahushua and the moon representative of Yasharal, and we know I and my Father are one. Abide in me and I in you, perfect in one. That means the moon, sun, moon, and stars are supposed to be perfect in one. That's what he said in John 17:23. Make us perfect in one. That means they all supposed to work together for the same cause at the same time. That means the moon can't be doing one thing and the sun do another. That means we're not looking at it right. Because the sun and the moon should be able to calculate time at the exact same time. That means when the sun says it's a new month, the moon should be locked right along with it. You know what I'm saying?
we still trying to get some understanding with everything.
It just keep on just researching on it. But we were talking about it this morning.
I ain't know the moon had 30 days.
Yeah, see, he was saying like, because he looked at the brother video, and he was like, he misspoke on that. That's why I always be telling you, regardless of what a nigga say, myself included, you still supposed to go look. It doesn't matter who it is, who's speaking it, you still supposed to double check their story to make sure it's correct. Because look how simple that he made the mistake of saying count 50 twice for Pentecost, and the book say clear as day in Deuteronomy 16, 7 weeks. Just that easy, you could have been undone, son, and be wrong. Then he say the brother say he gonna keep Passover on both dates, this week and later on in the month. So somebody who don't know no better, who will see that will confuse them utterly, because they gonna look at, well, which one is it, nigga? Was it the week in the first week of so-called April, or is it now? You know what I'm saying? Because you can't do that to appease both sides of the fence, because that means you might not even be 100% sure what you talking about. Which means you shouldn't even put that out there. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm definitive and completely convinced, according to what's written, that the moon ain't got nothing to do with it. And these 13 months back that up. Like, I've really been hearing brothers trying to justify 13 months. No book for
But
it.
now, remember when we saw 1 Kings 4:7, where it said King Solomon
That
had
12 for 12 months.
For 12 months.
And it's in 1 Chronicles 27. 1 Chronicles 27 say the same thing. Set it up where he say each one for each month, and it's 12 tribes. You're not going to get 13 months out of that. So if we sitting back seeing that the moon every 3-4 years is giving us 13 months, then we already know that something is amiss. And that has to be examined. I think this is the first year that 13 months came up. No, I'm talking about in being examined. Yeah, I know. I see this. I'm saying, but this year right here, this the first time it's being like nobody's ever sat down and say, "What's up with that? Let's look at that."
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I'm keeping the land going off the moon right now, saying it's a new year
Yeah, I know a lot of them saying New Year came in today. You know what I'm saying? So then you turn around and look at, that means they would have had to look at, they kept 13 months. Just like you had some that say New Year came in the 9th of last month. You know what I'm saying? So we already knowing that there's something got to be amiss in the right. But like I was telling the brother this morning, you talking about a people that have been estranged from ancient knowledge for millennials, for millenniums. You know what I'm saying? And you talking about you trying to come in, and that's what makes some people be like, well, who actually know the word and who got the word? That's why the man say you know in part and you prophecy in part. That's why he say I give apostles and pastors and prophets and teachers for the edifying of the body till we come into the unity of the faith and the fullness of Mashiach. Because he might drop a word on one person, and then that person begins to put that out there, and then other people catch it, and then they look into what they may have heard this person say. And then you know what ends up happening? The body starts doing this. Instead of the body being like this, it starts doing this. It starts doing this. It starts doing this. And then boom, everybody is on the same page, but it's a process. Sometimes we want that stuff to happen immediately. You know what I'm saying? Because we forget, like, you talking about you trying to relearn stuff in 5-10 years that you've been estranged from for 2,000-3,000 years. In that, you know what I'm saying? So it's just got that's coming into what we were looking at with that Takufa and that circuit, and also with them constellations. When we were sitting down talking about that at that library, that's where that come in at. Take out what is Job 38. And then that Exodus 34 and 20. Because that circus, that's where them equinoxes is in when you looking at the sun and the sun going through them circus. And I think when we spelled out Takufa, the word horizon was in it. And when that horizon, that's where them solstices is, or equinoxes is resting at. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of brothers was looking at the new year coming in based on the barley. The barley. See, this month is called the month of Abib, which means green ears. So you'll have dudes that be like, if the barley in the land hasn't turned green, then the new year hasn't come in. Though y'all never said to bring the new year in based off the barley. He just said, name the month Abib. It just happens to mean barley, green ears. You know what I'm saying? But it's a lot of stuff that we do that sometimes that's what them Jewish people do. So you'll have dudes that won't even bring the new year in unless the barley pop. See, and then I look at that as a major contradiction, because if you say the new year come in by the new moon and then the barley don't pop, then what you gonna do then? You know what I'm saying? Because if let's say the new moon was on the 8th and the barley ain't pop and the barley pop on the 15th, so it's New Year's the 15th, which one is it? You know what I'm saying? So we sitting back looking at this stuff got to be set at an appointed time. That means our ways of calculating months and days have to have been drastically off kilter. You know what I'm saying? Have to be. But let me finish there. Where we at? John 6 and 30. Look at, he said, if a man be a father, will he give his son stone for bread?
You use Exodus 16 or yeah?
We in John 6 and 30. We was in Exodus. We good in Exodus 16 though. Hello? Hello?
Dang, so yeah.
Huh?
Okay.
Shalom, Will. What's going on? So,
How's your time said when you turn this bread into
stone. See, but he can't.
gave a parable like.
Yeah, see, we went over this a long time ago.
Yeah, I remember you did.
I don't know what video it's in. But when he was coming to him talking about, can you turn these bread into stone?
Mm.
See, he was trying to get him to go ahead and make the new covenant before it was time. You know what I'm saying? Say, turn these stones into bread.
Why you trying to make it do it faster? I mean,
Because then the book don't be fulfilled and everything's off.
Oh.
He was tempting them to, he know he the son of Elohim. So if I can get you to do this before everything fulfilled, then the prophecy failed and you lose. See, I got to try to stop you from doing, that's what I was talking about the other day. Yeah, see, this is what I was telling y'all the other day, like even sit back looking at this here, right? See, I already know this. But even when you know it, sometimes it's because you sit back, you leaning on Mashiach, but you not him at the same time, but you leaning on him to mimic him. Like I already know, like I told you in an instance, boy, I looked somebody right in their face and told them, the adversary is at both of us to separate us. You need to be ready for that because it's coming. You know what I'm saying? I told him this all long before it even happened. You know what I'm saying? So I'm already knowing when the man come for you like that, he coming like that for you for one reason and one reason alone. It's something that you supposed to be doing that he is trying to stop. Like when you look at Luke 22:41, he say, Simon, Simon, Satan has desired to have you and sift you as wheat. That goes right back when you look at Job. Satan desired to have Job. You know what I'm saying? He say, I pray for you that your faith fail not. And when you're converted, strengthen your brethren. Why? Peter is the rock upon which this house is going to be built. If I can stop him, the house won't be built. You know what I'm saying? So when he come to Mashiach and be like, check this out, man. Turn these stones into bread. Now, taking account, Mashiach going to come back later as we looking at right now and say, which one of you being a father, if your son asks for bread, you give him a stone? Hello? Hello? Which one of you being a father, your son asked for bread, you give him a stone? Satan knows this. This is why he asked Mashiach this question. You know what I'm talking about? So he already know, like we looked at, the first covenant was written on tables of stone. The new covenant is written on fleshly tables of the heart. You know what I'm saying? He sat back and we finna read it, man, say, I'm the bread of life. If a man eat this bread, he'll never die. So if I can get you to turn this bread into stone, I get you to get the prophecy out of order. Cancel. Same way he sit back and say, look here, man, check it out, man. Look at all these kingdoms, man. I give you all that, B. Just bow down and worship me. I can get it to be canceled. You know what I'm saying?
And he knew the desire of his heart
Because he weak. He ain't ate in 40 days and 40 nights. That's why I told you before. How you think this man could be able? Because you weak. When you weak, he got an easier chance to slide on through. It's only one or two things gonna happen. You either already girded yourself up in the Most High, or the Most High is gonna go ahead and pull you out. Cause I know you too weak to handle this right now. See, that's what he had to do with Job. Job was too weak to handle. I gotta go get him now. You know what I'm saying? Cause Job is tripping right now. I sent somebody around here to go off on him because Job is tripping right now. I gotta go get him. You know what I'm saying? Cause we forget.
What's wrong with tripping on?
Remember, he sat back and he. Hold on. Hold this John 6 and 30. Come on, I'm gonna show you what he did though. Hold John 6 and 30. Come to Job about 35, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't tripping back, but it was something he did. Cause remember, Job gonna turn around and say, "I repent in dust and ashes." So if you repent, that means you know you did something you ain't had no business.
He said 38.
Hold on, let me make sure what's what. About 34. I gotta try to find which one it is. Try to.
Yeah, 'cause I know the affliction came. He still holds it down.
He never spoke against the Most High, but
that's all I'm saying.
now first thing first, get Job 35 and about 14. Matter of fact, make it about 12. I'll work my way around it. They hold it John 6 and 30. Most High willing, we get all this here. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. What it was is he said Job justified himself and not Elohim. That's what he did. That's what he did. You know what I'm saying? He would it wasn't that he was self-righteous, but the fact that what it was is he was looking at, I done did all this here, all this here, all this here, all this here. Why I'm going through this? I shouldn't be going through this. He didn't ascribe the greatness to his maker. You know what I'm talking about? That's what he was. That's why he said, now I got to go get him. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, Job already talking about, boy, I'm ready to die. You know what I'm saying? Grant me my request that I can be comforted and die. You know what I'm talking about? You gotta sit back and think and look at that there, man. That's why I was telling y'all, like, boy, he didn't allow me to realize it. When I was talking with Trav, I would tell him, he said, boy, you sound like the prophets. At the time, man, I'm not trying to hear none of that about what he talking about. Everything he talking about is literally going boom, because I ain't trying to hear it right now. You know what I'm talking about? Even alone, then you sit back and look at it, everything they were going through, boy, you were saying, not just on so let me quote it to sound like that. You were saying that. Just with what the book say. Because you got to make sure you get to the point that even at times, man, whether you suffering, whether you happy, that the word can flow out your mouth and you not even intending on speaking it. That's why you say, live in water, let it flow.
Okay, I got that.
You see what I'm saying? Because, see, you know, sometimes you can tell when niggas just be saying word and he's quoting it. He's forcing it, trying to make himself see. Then you come across people where, like, did that nigga even realize he's speaking book? That only the people who going to catch it are people who what? Know the book.
Know the law.
Look at Job 36 and 12, though. Well, I'm trying to remember on whatever verse here where he said that. He said, there they cry. Well, make it 11. Matter of fact, make it 9. 35 and 9. He say, by reason of the multitude of oppressions, they make the oppressed to cry. They cry out by reason of the arm of the mighty. This going back to what we was even starting with, right? About mourning and bearing about this man's body. Because when it's them oppressions and them afflictions of y'all come on you, that's when the man cry out. I guarantee you, if you ain't cry to y'all no other time, I bet you cry when he go to busting you upside your head, whether you did something wrong or whether you didn't. Because that's his purpose of, again, what are we looking at, what we were talking about? Plant you guards and eat the fruit thereof. You seen when Mashiach, when them oppressions went upside his head, when the arm of the mighty would get him, what he did. My Elohim, why hast thou forsaken me? Father, in thy hand I commend my ruach. I thirst. It's finished. You know what I'm saying? He crying out. Why? For what purpose? So he could be planted in that garden, so he could eat the fruit thereof. So we could eat the fruit thereof. Because he the first fruits of them that slept. Now we going to sit back and look at that. We know with any offering that was made under Yahuwah, who ate it? The priest ate it, right? We know Levi mean joined, or those who are joined to Yahuwah, abide in me and I in you. You going to plant that garden to eat the fruit thereof. He is the fruit. Go eat it. It's good for food. That's why we look at love, joy, peace, long suffering, temperance, goodness, meekness, faith. That stuff is good for food. Fornication, lies, adultery, maliciousness, spitefulness. That stuff ain't good for food. That's like eating processed food in here in America. You know what I'm saying? That's like eating GMOs. Next thing you walk around here, you got lesions on your genitalia area. You wonder what it is. It's cancer. Lesions on I'm talking about, but you know it's weird when you hear men getting breast cancer on the regular. And then you know what these nasty, wicked people tell you to do? Tell a woman, go find a man to suck on your breast. That'll get rid of your breast cancer. Or tell a woman, go swallow semen. That'll get rid of cancer for you. And then they plant this stuff as literal medical evidence as proof to go participate in this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's how they roll. You know what I'm saying? All manner of perversity. That's why I was telling the young lady, she ain't much but a year or two younger than me, that I went to school with. Black people don't want to acknowledge it or realize it, but I don't see how any rational, educated, intelligent person cannot see it. You live in a land that are ran by Caucasians. It doesn't matter just because it's Caucasian. Because we could be in the Middle East and you'll be in a land that's run by Arabs. Or you could be in Asia and you'll be in a land run by Orientals. Whatever you want to call them.
Orientals?
Yeah, Orientals, Asian, whatever you want to call them. We ain't going to call them no derogatory name. You could be in Southeast Asia and be ruled over by East Indians. Quite naturally, if they're the ruling class of that land, their culture is going to permeate and influence you because that is who's controlling the forms of media in the place where you dwell. You know what I'm saying? And if you are the underclass or the oppressed class, if you do not believe that you will be influenced by these people, you are an idiot. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting here telling her, like I told him about this last night, that pretty baby doll. Baby doll got the blonde hair wig on it. She talking about that doll ain't real. That's just another way to degrade black women for wearing weave and wearing colored hair. And I'm like, she say maybe a black person made. I say I don't care who made it. That ain't even the issue. If you can't look at this baby doll and see that this is white supremacy, you smoking crack. Because when the little black girls see this, they already think, because you're so dumb, you cut the TV on, what do you see? Blonde haired, blue eyed, white women. This is the standard of beauty in every television show, every music video that they produce, every magazine that they make, every newspaper that they put out, every radio ad that you hear. You know what I'm saying? If you live in the United States of America, this is what you see. Everybody done seen the baby doll test. Every black child say the black baby was ugly. Ain't no black people in their house teaching their kids that. Who's sitting right here talking about, you know you ugly, get this white doll, the white doll pretty. So that means this is a subconscious influence that's coming from the media. I told this one woman that I said it last night, I say it again. These people spend billions of dollars on marketing to influence your purchasing choices. And you don't think that they'll spend billions of dollars to influence white supremacy? They give you a blonde-haired, blue-eyed faggot.
If you think they spend millions of dollars on Super Bowl commercials, what you think they spending that for?
But so let's just go ahead and just not even play no games with it. Because Caesar Borgia was a homosexual. That's why I say faggot. Because he slept with Leonardo da Vinci. I ain't saying all white people gay. I'm talking about the picture. They gave you a blonde-haired, blue-eyed sodomite and told you this was God. And if you don't think that that permeates in your brain the level of white supremacy. I remember 3-4 years ago, man, a girl I knew from when I used to hustle, man. She was like, I want to say Happy Father's Day to my father, Caesar Borgia. I said, you do know that man is not white, right? And you don't know if he was black, he could have been light skinned. That's white supremacy. And this is from somebody who's supposed to be hood. That's white supremacy.
I've been seeing like on my time.
That's white supremacy.
Young cats, bro, that's supposed to be thugging. They be putting white Jesus on black man.
That's white supremacy. Because even though you guess what, they thugging, but they actually doing white supremacy. Hate yourself. So when you see somebody who look like you hate them. Therefore, you want to harm them because that's really what you want to do to yourself. You want the white baby doll, you want the blonde hair, you want the blue eyes because you believe your features are ugly. So then what these women don't realize is when you wear the weave, when you wear the blonde wigs, that reinforces that in that little girl's mind. You know what I'm talking about? They not realizing that because you thinking you just making hair choices, but you're not really making hair choices. You have been subliminally influenced to believe that you are ugly and that is attractive. Therefore, that's why you want to do it. Because you don't see no other group of people on the face of the earth trying to look like another people. Why you don't see them doing that? Because they run their land. They can influence their own medias. They set their own culture. So why would that happen? The only ones who do that is some Japanese people. Here they want to mock and act like you, but really they be mocking you. Some of them actually got a genuine love for our culture and just want to be us. Don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Some of these Arabs, some of these Africans, some of them Asians, you know what I'm saying? They literally want to be black, but they don't want your struggle though. You know what I'm saying? See, they want to be black, then go back to the house where they stay at. You know what I'm saying? I want to act like I'm hard from the projects. I want to act like I'm from Florida Ave. I want to act like I'm from Jamaica, Queens. I want to act like I'm from the south side of Chicago. I want to act like I'm Compton, but I stay in Beverly Hills, though. I stay in Ponte Vedra, though. You know what I'm saying? I stay in Manhattan, though. You know what I'm talking about? Because they want your essence. They want your spirit, but they don't want your life, though. You know what I'm saying? That's what we supposed to remember. We had to remember you on guard, man. Since I've been made aware of white supremacy, I'll fight it till I die. You know what I'm saying? I'll fight it till I die. Ain't no reason. Come on, man. White people here don't naturally lie. They do that to look like you. They want to dress like you. They want to talk like you. They want to rap like you. And you notice what happens when they get on after they use you to get where they want to go? Don't mess with black people like that. I ain't black. You know what I'm saying? This, that, and the third. I'm telling you. That's why we've been talking about these last couple of days. If you show mercy to each other while we suffering, whatever the suffering may be, and we love each other like Mashiach loved us, then these people have no choice but to acknowledge that we the people that are living Elohim and Shamahim and Aras and come follow him too, because they won't follow you anyway. You know what I'm saying? You know the first thing that'll gather these people up, not just saying keep the Shabbats. Don't eat no swine. Let them people sit back and see how you interact and treat each other and love each other. Then they'll come on. Because that's a lot of stuff. When they see them niggas standing out there on them corners, or they see some of the stuff that niggas be arguing about online, this, that, there, and the third. Man, they don't see that. As crazy as niggas might have thought when we was snapping on them dudes downtown there, you know how many people came up to him like, boy, you handled yourself pretty well with those guys. And you sit back and look at it and you'll be like, boy, how that nigga was yelling and doing this, that, there, and the third. Because I ain't never disrespect him. I ain't never call them out their name. And all I stayed focused on was I was dead serious about what I was talking about. See, a lot of people don't realize every time I done talk to them dudes, people come up and be like, yeah, man, you handled yourself pretty well with them guys. You know what I'm saying? You handled yourself pretty well with them guys. Because them niggas cussing, they disrespecting, they saying sideways stuff, trying to cause a physical altercation, which ended up, that's how which one of them niggas was the other day. That's what that nigga Jaw was doing the lean bite. You know what I'm saying? Because you done popped off to the wrong person who was finna gonna put your hands on you. See, we wasn't gonna put our hands on it, and they knew that.
One of them hit in the mouth.
Yeah, one of them got hit in the mouth. We see them niggas walking through that sweat like they been fighting cut hole in their mouth like this here. I ain't seeing Jaw. Well, I said that nigga Jaw looked like 4 globes. Hold on, that go deep. But what I'm saying that is
Hold on, I know. Turn the tables in the stone. If you would have messed up one time,
it killed the whole thing. It kills that we do. It kill everything. That means the word of Yah has failed. Remember what he said in Isaiah 34:16. None of the prophecy will fail. You know what I'm saying? My mouth has commanded it. The word can't fail. Because if Mashiach failed, Yahuwah failed. Because that means his word ain't true. Ain't no iniquity in the mouth of Yahuwah. He's a God, he's an Elohim of truth. That means if I say that this, if I done laid the plan out from Bereshit chapter 1 all the way to Malachi, that means this man got to fulfill every step of the way. Why you think when the disciple pulled out the sword, he said, man, put that stuff up, man. How else would the scriptures be fulfilled? I can't let you do this. If I let you do this, then the prophecy failed. Everybody going to hell. Himself included. Because you know why? That means he didn't follow instructions. He can't be the instructions made flesh and not follow. That's why you see him sit back down. That's why we did it backwards in reading Exodus 34 first. He gave the bread first. You know what I'm saying? The people asked for bread. He didn't give them no stone. He gave them bread first. He say, who being a father, when his son asked, give him bread give him a stone instead of bread. The people say, we need bread. We had bread. I give it to you then. Then he gave him a stone. You know what I'm saying? So when you wasn't satisfied with that, I'm going to come back around. You asking for life. We captive. We this here. I'm going to give you bread again. This time it's living bread. Let me finish this joke because we talking about all this type of stuff, man. But it's all good, though. Praise y'all nonetheless. He say, there they cry. I'm sorry. Verse 10, he say, but none saith, where is Elohim my maker, who gives songs in the night, who teach us more than the beasts of the Arats and make us wiser than the fowls of Shamahim. That's why nigga, you can't sit back and look at it, right? He say, teach us more than the beasts of the earth. When you sit back and look at it, right, how Paul, I think it's Jude, he said they brute beasts. I think Peter even supposed to, they brute beasts. You know what a beast is? That's carnal. So what a spiritual things a natural man can't receive because he's a brute beast. You know what I'm talking about? Brute beasts don't have no understanding. A natural minded person, a carnal, because that's what a beast is. They carnal. You know what I'm saying? Like we use that terminology. You know what I'm saying? Just saying, boy, he a beast on whatever it is that he doing. It basically is an animal. But when you sit back and you look at it, that nigga's carnal. That's a way of saying somebody's carnal. That's why he uses that terminology when describing Hashatan, the beast, the beast, the beast, the beast. He can't be taught because he's a beast. See, I don't want to get all over the place. That's why I just referenced to Peter and the Jews. You know what I'm saying? They brute beasts. That's why he say he give power unto the beast. That's why he say he teach us more than the beast. He gonna teach us more than the transgressor. That's why he say if you repent, he teach sinners in the way. You know what I'm talking about? He gonna teach a transgressor in the way of Kadesh, in the way of Mashiach. That way you're not a brute beast anymore. You become a spiritual being. Why? Because you planted your garden and ate the fruit thereof. You know what I'm saying? That's what you gotta say. And this is what we talking about, the consolation of the suffering. We suffering in captivity in Babylon when he tell us to do this. We sitting back looking at, we suffering the captivity of sin when he tell us, plant you a garden, eat the fruit of it. Same way we sitting here in America, plant you a garden, eat the fruit of it. Build you houses, dwell in that. Not houses made with hands, but the houses that's made eternal in Shamahim. Build you that house. How is you going to build that house? By building on the rock. Say, plant your house on the rock, right? And that's what he told you. He said, any man hear my sayings, I liken him to a man who built this house on the rock. So if you're going to build your house and dwell in it, what you going to have to do? Set a sure foundation to build that house, to walk in it and live in it. That's why he say, except Yahuwah build the house, the builders build in vain. You know what I'm saying? So we sitting back looking at it. If it ain't built off the word, if it ain't built off right, well, you just doing something. And 99.9% of our people, they just doing something. You know what I'm saying? A lot of our people judge things by how people dress, how people talk, where they worship at, all that type of stuff. Instead of sitting back looking at Yahuwah, looking on the heart, where your heart at? Because you can have the nicest clothes going to hell, the nicest place of worship going to hell. You know what I'm saying? You can have all of that. That man don't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? He care about it, but he don't. It's not like he wants you to around here look like a hooligan, but look busted up. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, he wants you in. He wants to be inside of you. And then we look at he want to be inside of us. What does he want to manifest? Love each other. There go Young Slim right now. Be merciful to each other. Somebody open the door for Young Slim. You know what I'm saying? I'm being serious though. Think about it. Let it resonate in your brain. You know what I'm saying? That stuff, that's what it's got to sit back and be as, man, every attribute of Yah.
The boy named Carl.
Look at Young Slim.
What's your name?
Look at like that. It's fro jumping out the gates.
And his new name Troyber.
Troyber. Where'd that come from?
The Uber driver now.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, he told me about that. There.
Troyber.
You know what I'm saying? I'm finna join him though. I'm finna grow me a fro. Y'all think I'm playing though. So I'm gonna grow my afro. Yeah. I done had one before. I like mine nappy though. Yeah, I like mine nappy though. Mine gonna be. No, mine gonna have the fade on the side though.
Yeah.
36, 35 though. 35 and 12. He say, there they cry, but none give answer because of the pride of evil men. He say, surely Elohim would not hear vanity, neither will Elohim Almighty regard it. He say, although thou say thou shalt not see him, yet judgment is before him, therefore trust thou in him. You know where that go? And he say, although thou shalt not see him, he say, if a man can see it, why doth he yet hope for it? But if a man can't see it, then with patience he'll wait for it. Because sometimes that's how we go to looking at stuff. I can't see him. He say, but his judgment is right there before him. He say, trust thou in him. He'll render you just judgment. He say, but now because it is not so, he has visited in his anger, yet he know it not in great extremity. You see what he said? Because it ain't happened, he feel like the Most High done visited in anger. Look what he said. Therefore Job opened his mouth in vain. He multiplied words without knowledge. I mean, he say Job spoke for nothing. All his words were worthless. He said, you ain't speak right.